Hi, I'm Larry Dignan with CRTV, and we're here with Constellation analyst Doug Henshin, and we're going to talk about what is an iPaaS and everything you need to know. Hi, Doug. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Larry. I've been at Constellation for nearly 9 years now. My research domain is data to decisions. So that's really the path from raw data to insights and actions. And really, it usually starts with integration, whether it's databases or applications or mission critical systems. It's about connecting those sources to the targets. And increasingly, it's about data coming back again to drive AI or to drive automation.
So let's just start with the basics. What is an iPaaS? I mean, everyone seems to know SaaS and infrastructure as a service, and it always seems like it's, hey, SaaS infrastructure, and then, oh yeah, there's this iPaaS thing off to the side. Yeah. It's kind of like the stepchild of the two.
Well, there's platform as a service, and there's lots of types of platform as a service. This is an integration platform as a service that's accessed and managed in the cloud. And so in this case, the iPaaS, instead of creating and managing these brittle, hard-coded point-to-point integrations between data sources and apps or apps and other apps, you're using out-of-the-box connectors from this iPaaS platform. Usually they've got plenty of connectors for apps and data sources, and then you connect to that platform, and then you connect from the platform back out to other apps and data platforms. So really the iPaaS becomes this consistent intermediary between all points of integration. So then you end up doing most of your integration work by pointing and clicking or dragging and dropping. You're using a visual integration interface. It's kind of a low-code, no-code experience to do the connections between the data and the apps and the apps. And it really speeds up all that integration work, scales up, it leads to more productivity because you're not coding everything.
And how does this set you up for the future?
Well, with iPaaS, you're better prepared for change. The vendors keep this iPaaS up to date, including all those connectors to popular apps and data sources, and those are constantly changing. So the vendor's taking care of that. And you can reuse all the connections and integrations you set up for your own apps and data sources. So as you need more integrations, you can reuse those integration components you've created. And when needs change or you introduce new apps or data sources, it's a simple matter of adding or changing the connectors, tweaking the APIs, the mappings, the configurations, and you can do it once for each app or data source, and then the changes are applied across all those integrations that you've already done.
So what are some of the more strategic, cutting edge things you're seeing in the iPaaS market?
Well, definitely, what we call the next generation iPaaS, and what we see emerging are three things: API management capabilities, workflow and automation capabilities, and augmented AI capabilities, including this emerging collection of generative AI capabilities. So on the API front, in the cloud, it's all about APIs because they abstract the complexity, they promote the agility, the flexibility. Now, unfortunately, they also introduce a new source of complexity in the form of API sprawl. So the leading iPaaS vendors are amping up their API management capabilities. I'm talking about lifecycle management, unified control planes to wrangle all those APIs, governance frameworks to ensure that the APIs are tracked and managed for efficiency and security. On workflow and automation, and we still have a lot of talent shortages. Companies are being pressed to do more with fewer people. During the pandemic in particular, we saw a lot more workflow capabilities introduced to iPaaS, and the idea is to create repeatable processes that can be automated wherever possible. Now, in AI and ML, iPaaS is a cloud-based platform, so vendors have started to learn from the data exhaust. I'm not talking about the private data that you're connecting. I'm talking about the metadata behind all those integration patterns on this cloud-based platform. So for the last few years, we've started to see iPaaS that can suggest the next best integration steps. If you pick an app or a data source, it's already showing you frequent integration patterns and the existing integrations that exist. So you're not recreating things that already exist. So the iPaaS are getting smarter. And the latest advance with AI is this generative AI It's going to be used to help design, deploy, explain, and document integrations. And it's going to help to democratize these iPaaS because you're going to have these natural language interfaces. So tech savvy, line of business people, process owners who aren't integration professionals are going to be able to develop and deploy new integrations and workflows just by describing what they want. Now, all of these Gen AI capabilities will also be used by the IT and integration professionals. And in their case, it's accelerating their work, scaling up their productivity, helping them to monitor, maintain, and modify integrations. It'll enable them to vet the Gen AI-based integration work done by this new class of tech-savvy line of business user or process owner. It'll scale up and accelerate their transformation work because it'll help with explaining legacy integrations and code that's been around and the people that created that code left long ago. But the Gen AI can sort of explain those integrations and help document integrations.
So what are the use cases for iPaaS today, and how do you see that evolving given the generative AI and the other, I guess, the democratization?
Well, integration is all over the place. So the use cases for integration are infinite. And any company that has a lot of integration work wants to use an iPaaS to gain that, productivity, scalability. When it comes to workflow and process automation, a lot of processes we see are e-commerce processes, supply chain, order to cash, B2B partner integration, onboarding, whether it's employee or customer onboarding. Again, you're looking for repeatability, productivity, automation.
What are some of the recommendations you have for looking at a iPaaS vendor?
Well, I would look for what we call a next generation iPaaS. That means it's complete. You should be able to consolidate on one industry, one company standard iPaaS for your company. If you can do it all with one platform, you'll get much more out of that investment, both in terms of the technology investment and the training for your people. If that familiarity builds, the more familiar they are with the iPaaS, the more routine and capable they are in cranking out new integrations. So what does complete mean? I think the first bit of advice is to look beyond just the next project. That's often a catalyst for an integration investment, but you should really think beyond that next project to the breadth of your integration needs. Do you have on-premises integration needs? Are you working on multiple public clouds? Are there major tech investments in the wings, like a new ERP or CRM system? What is your interest in doing workflow and automation? You want to look at all these things. You want to consider maybe mergers and acquisitions changing your needs or the scale of the integration work that you're doing. And if you want to be forward-looking, you got to look at the AI and Gen AI capabilities. A lot of these platforms are also addressing streaming integration, so low latency systems and platforms like Kafka and Kinesis. So the next question after, what you'll need to integrate is who will do the work. And is it strictly IT and integration professionals today? A lot of these iPaaS are coming with low-code, no-code capabilities, Gen AI. All of the above will influence, which iPaaS you want to choose, what type of people will use that platform, and then the pricing models that might work best.
What are some of the gotchas to look for?
Well, again, you want the completeness of the iPaaS, but also modularity. So you can, if you don't need all those capabilities, but you just want to keep in mind that you want a platform that will take you there when you need to get there, you want to be able to add capabilities as needed. So you're not paying for them until you're using them. You want to look at the subscription models. Is it per user, per connection, per workflow? Is it capacity based? It's at best, in our view, if the vendor gives you a range of options and they worry about what works for them, you have to worry about what works for you, the pricing option that works for your level of integration, the type of integration work, the numbers of users you're going to have, and et cetera.
Yeah, so I imagine there are times where if you did by connection, it's one thing, and then if you're doing it by capacity or traffic going back and forth between apps, I guess it's kind of like the cloud, right? The bill could add up pretty quickly.
Yes, and it could change over time. And the model that works for you today might change as your number of integrations scale up, and that's often a gotcha. People start with the initial project, they're thrilled, it's great, but then as the integrations multiply, and they're paying by integration or paying by workflow, then the bill can add up very quickly.
So I guess last question, what are, we have our Constellation shortlist. What are some of the vendors that, you've looked at that you think are worth a look?
Well, I think you should go to our shortlist. All iPaaS are cloud-based, but on-prem capabilities, multi-cloud capabilities, these sorts of things are uneven. I think if you look at our shortlist at constellationr.com/shortlist, you'll see I have a lot of independent platforms. They tend to be more app, a data source, and cloud agnostic. But you really have to match the platform to your specific needs. If you're all in one cloud, maybe one of those choices would make more sense. So do your research, get feedback from would-be users, and by all means, we recommend that you do proof of concept projects or maybe several projects with the breadth of integration types needs that you want to address.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, and I look forward to reading the iPaaS research you'll be throwing out.
All right. Thanks, Larry.